Welcome back to another episode of the Valaery Rose Show. I'm your host, Valaery Rose, and today we have another amazing guest, and I'm super excited for this theme. It is deeply rooted in purpose, her foster care journey and mission. So, this amazing guest is a content creator, volunteer, foster care advocate, and the founder of Deeply Rooted. Help me welcome the lovely Antoinette.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me.
Of course, girl, I'm super excited to have you here. And thank you so much for taking the time to be here because I know that your story and your message is going to be amazing to every individual, but it's going to really hit the hearts of the foster youth. And even adults as myself who went through that foster care journey. And as I've shared with you before, I don't really talk about it too much. It's just kind of like
Yeah,
if you know type of thing. So
definitely.
if you could start off by sharing with us more in detail about who you are, how you started your deeply rooted, and why you do what you do.
As you said, my name is Antoinette. I has started my advocacy work. It was started in college. I That's really where I found my voice.
Mhm.
I was also much like you, like if you knew, you knew, but it wasn't something that I like to talk about it. I think a lot of people who come from the system, they don't want to wear it as a badge of honor. It's actually a badge of shame and guilt, and all of these negative connotations come with that title. So in college, I actually, I found programs that I
Mhm.
was a part of, and I was able to sit on student panels, and I realized what power I could have if I
Yeah.
changed the narrative of what that means to be
Right.
a foster youth, right?
Hmm.
I started doing volunteer work with the organization that I work with now, which is CASA of Orange County. So
Yep.
they're court appointed special advocates. And I was an advocate for 2 years because my goal was to originally become a social worker. And
Nice.
I started my advocacy work through there. And I kind of just followed that along the way. And I got to a point where I was like, you know what? I don't want this to be my whole identity. I
Right.
don't want to just be looked at as Antoinette, the person who came from foster care or the
Hmm.
former foster youth.
Yep.
So I kind of wanted to shed all of those things. And then I realized that I wasn't being authentic to who I was and how much power that my story held
Right.
for other individuals to grow. And I live a life of service. So that's where Deeply Rooted came from,
Yeah.
where I kind of viewed myself as not being deeply rooted in anything because I had such a rough childhood and upbringing. I had to figure out how to grow my own roots and how
Right.
to deeply plant them. And my mission is really to show people, whether you've been through the foster care system or you just had a really tough childhood,
Yep.
that you can plant your roots and you can change that narrative of your story and
Right.
create power and representation for people who might be feeling the same or looking for others who are successful
Right.
that have a similar story as them.
Wow, that is absolutely beautiful. I'm really amazed at the work that you do and even seeing what you post on social media and us connecting, it inspired me a lot in recognizing how amazing you are. And going back to what you said, a lot of us choose to look at it in a negative way.
Yeah.
And even following you, I always thought I was a super healed person, but coming across you, I'm
Yes.
like, that's like one thing where I'm like, I kind of just let it be, like rubbed it under or like swept it under the a rug. And I'm like, there is power in sharing it with people. But even before, I'd have to be like, oh yeah, I'm a foster youth, and then people kind of start feeling sorry for you, and they're like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
poor you, I would have never known, and things like that. So I totally agree with you saying that sometimes we wear it as shame or it comes with some sort of negativity, but it doesn't need to be that way. And I'm glad that you're shedding light in that. And then you're the embodiment of we can go through all that shit and still come out on top and
Yeah.
become the person that we want to be. Because
Absolutely.
I've seen even myself, former foster youth, that they don't make it out the way that we do.
Yeah.
And it's either because they don't have the hope, they don't have the guidance, or they believe that because they come from that, aside from all the other layers, right? Like the poverty, depending on where they grew up, their environment, their peers, and who they're with determines a lot of the belief that they have in themselves, unfortunately.
Definitely.
So, what's a big message that you'd like to give to current former foster youth? And then, if you have something separate to give to those adults like myself who were former foster youth and kind of just like not ignore it, but don't really own it.
Yeah. So I guess for current foster youth, I
Mhm.
would definitely say that you might feel like there's a timeline, right? Like I should have all of my shit together
Yep.
by this age and I'm never going to make it because I keep on failing. Get up and fail again because
Yeah,
every time you fail, you learn something new.
that's true.
When I, you know, I was a teen mom,
Mhm.
so when I found out that I was pregnant at 15, I had my firstborn at 16. I always deeply knew that I wanted the first goal was to graduate high school. I wasn't even thinking about college,
Mhm.
but I knew that I had to get this high school diploma. And especially now because I had another human that's going to be depending on me.
Right.
So I, worked my ass off and I
Mhm.
went back to high school with the baby on my hip and graduated high school. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to go to college. Went to college. I failed the first year. Every
Mhm.
semester I failed. I didn't know how to advocate for myself.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to, I didn't have a voice. I really didn't know how to navigate this institution that I've never seen anyone in my family navigate before.
Yeah.
So I kind of just determined, like, you know what? People like me don't go to college, right? It's
Mhm.
something we see in sitcoms. Only
Yeah.
rich kids do that. People like me, we go work at J.C. Penney's because that was my
Mhm.
first job. And I said,
Yep.
I'm going to work up the ladder and just become a manager. And that's what
Yeah.
we do until we retire.
Right.
And that was my path. That's what I did. But then I ended up finding my voice. I became more mature.
Yeah.
And then I realized like, I don't want to do this forever. Let
Mhm.
me go back. So I didn't go back to college until I was 28. And, so you can go back anytime.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be college is the only success,
Right.
pathway of success. Your pathway of success can look very different. So just keep getting up, keep trying. You are the pioneer. You're
Right.
going to be the one who's breaking generational cycles. And even though that shit is tough,
Yeah.
get up, get up, get up, get up, no matter how many times it takes you. I would say for adults who were formerly in care, who
Mhm.
are trying to figure out how to own that story,
Yeah.
just knowing that you don't have to share your story with everyone. And I
Right.
think that is a boundary that I had to learn
Mhm.
of not everybody deserves to hear that you were in foster care
Yeah.
because there are people out here trying to exploit others for their stories or
Mhm.
make them the face of what foster youth or like you said, feel
Right.
sorry for you.
Mhm.
But in your power is really having control of that narrative and
Right.
deciding how much am I going to give to you or how safe do I feel? Or you know what? Maybe I don't feel safe with you at all.
Mhm.
I'm just going to leave that out.
Yeah.
And knowing that there's a healing process
Mhm.
through that, through sharing that and saying it out loud. And you don't even have to be like the super successful person to be
Yeah.
like, okay, now I'm going to share it because I look super successful now and
Right.
it's worth sharing. No, your story is worth sharing no matter where you are in your journey.
Yeah. Wow, that is super powerful. As you're saying these things, I could relate to you on so many levels. I was also a teen mom, and I got pregnant at almost reaching 14. So I was like 13 and a half, going to 14. So I had her a little bit before
Yeah.
15. And even that was a struggle in itself. So being a
Oh,
foster
girl,
youth,
I know.
not having a stable family, someone to really guide you, that was my case. And then just growing up around a lot of gangs, things like that.
Yeah.
You're right. We sometimes feel like, oh, who are we to go to college? Who are we to even graduate high school? But even hearing you say that, it seems like our kids really helped us pave the way to be like, we got to strive for more because
Oh,
if not,
definitely.
they're going to go down with us and live the same life that we unfortunately got. And that's us being kids. We were victims at the time, right? Not
Right.
really able to make too many moves and changes because we had the government making choices for us, our families making choices for us, or making choices for themselves that led us to be in the foster care system.
Right.
So, when you got this inspiration to go to college because you're first gen Latina, everything I'm assuming,
Yes. Yes.
how did that feel knowing that you're breaking generational curses when you know that the work behind it, it's fucking deep
Yeah.
and it's scary, it's intense, and nobody really sees that part until you pass that on to your kids or you see the new habits that you develop.
Yeah. So, well, first of all, I think for a long time it was like, woe is me. Like, why me? Why am I the one, doing this?
Yeah,
And I think for our circumstance, right, being
right.
teen parents, they were our anchors. Like my baby was my
Yeah,
anchor. Like, thank God, because I think now back to it, where would I be? Like, would I have gone to college if I
yeah,
didn't have him? Because he was my sole reason and my sole purpose
yep.
for pursuing my career.
Just wanting a better life overall, right?
Yeah,
Yep.
definitely. And so a lot of it was, I almost was becoming like having this victim mentality for a really long time.
Same.
And I think until now, like in my 30s, is where I'm really getting to this different healing journey where I
Yeah.
have to pause and look back and say, holy shit, you did that. Like
Right.
you came all of this way. And a lot of it is like just trial and error, trial and error. And I always like joke, and I try not to joke about it no more because words are powerful. But I always
Yep.
say, I was a 3 times lesson learner, like it
Mhm.
didn't work out the first time. Oh, do it again. Oh,
Yep.
you know what? Second time, maybe let me give it one more time,
Right.
and even though it was like a bad choice or going, and I knew it was going down the, wrong road,
Mhm.
that's kind of what you have to do when you
Yeah.
don't have a sounding board, when you don't have
Right.
parents to go to and say, hey, mom, dad, this is happening. Tell me what to do. Where do
Mhm.
I go?
Right.
So it's definitely been a journey. It's exhausting. And it's
Mhm.
okay to admit that it's exhausting.
Yep.
It's okay to pause and say,
Right.
you know what? I don't want to heal right now.
Mhm.
I don't want to heal right now. I need to take a break from healing because healing's exhausting.
It is.
It's very exhausting.
And what would you say is the type of inner work that you've been doing to overcome your past traumas, healing from the foster care system? What are some things that it took for you to have like that aha moment, transformational moment that you started making those changes for your betterment over on to heal?
I think for me, I had to create a list of what I call non-negotiables. So
I
these
love
are
list.
these are things like rain or shine.
Yeah.
No matter if my friends want to go out that day or what's going on, there's a concert that I'm trying to get to,
Yeah.
I need to hit these, things. And for
Right.
me, it's I need to journal
Mm-hmm.
because I need to take inventory. If you're not taking inventory of your life, who's going to do that for you?
Right.
Right? Sitting down with your feelings, processing, how did this make me feel? What could I have done different? What could I have said different in this conversation?
Yeah.
Another one is working out, body movement, because
Mm-hmm.
I've struggled with anxiety and depression. And there was a time where I was literally, especially during COVID, I was just on the couch, eating my fillings,
Mm-hmm.
consuming a bunch of television and social media. And I realized like this is not healthy. Like I need to
Right.
go out. And I'm not saying like you have to go to the gym and become a bodybuilder.
Mm-hmm.
Go out for a walk for 30 minutes a day, 20 minutes a
Yeah.
day. So those are a few things that I have on my list of just going back and, making sure that I'm okay within. Meditation is a big one, prayer,
Right.
connecting to my spirituality,
Mm-hmm.
whatever that looks like for you, right?
Yeah.
There's not one right way to spirituality.
Right.
I think the most important part is having something higher than yourself to believe in.
Yeah.
Because when you don't have that, you feel completely alone.
Mm-hmm.
And whether it's praying to your ancestors
Yeah.
or maybe your grandmother passed away that you were close to, make that your anchor,
Mm-hmm.
something that you can connect to. I definitely took a lot of time trying to understand my mom's story,
Ooh,
right?
girl, I've been there. Yep.
And it took me a long time to forgive that wound. And we
Yep.
we don't have a close relationship now,
Mm-hmm.
but I can understand her from the viewpoint of being a woman,
Mm-hmm.
being a single mother
Right.
who was raised by a mother partially, right, who was very neglectful and very self-involved because she
Right.
was going through her own thing.
Mm-hmm.
So me being able to view her as she's not just mom, she's Yolanda, she's a human.
Yeah.
And I have to this was her story. These were her traumas, and unfortunately I was, the casualty of that. That's the
Right.
unfortunate part. But I can see now where she was coming from. And like we said, this shit is hard.
Yeah.
So I can't imagine what her life must have been like. And I know she probably also lives with her own regrets. So
Mm-hmm.
a big one for me was writing a letter to my mom that I never sent her because you need to get those things out. So getting those
Right.
things out, writing a letter to your younger self. So those were kind of all of the intentional steps that have taken to get to a more grounding place
Yeah.
in my healing.
Wow, that's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. Again, I can relate to a lot of what you said. And do you mind sharing how long it took for you to really forgive your mom?
Ooh, it took a lot of years. And we had a relationship kind of off and on. So definitely like into my 20s, there was a lot of, turmoil still. And
Yeah.
then I came to a place where I was fortunate enough to be in a position to hear her story and
Okay.
what her upbringing was like.
Mm-hmm.
And then that really kind of humbled me
Mm-hmm.
because I was like, your mom didn't come from some like, you know, good life. She doesn't
Right.
have a good background.
Mhm.
She did better. I heard about my grandmother's story and I'm like, well, crap, she's a whole lot better mother than my grandmother was.
Yeah.
And real being able to realize that. And I think being a mom is what helped. And
Oh,
not saying
yeah.
that you have to be a mom
Mhm.
to come to these realizations, but being a mom helped because now I'm a mother to a daughter.
Yep.
And I know I'm not a perfect mom. And I know I'm going to fall short because, again, I'm doing motherhood by myself for the
Right.
first time, trial and error. And then we kind of fostered a relationship. And unfortunately, you know, how does the saying go? You can't teach an old dog new
New tricks.
tricks.
Yep.
My mom is very set in her ways, and we just, our personalities, who we are, just very much clash.
Yep.
And I think I've gotten to a point where I am going to tell you how I feel, how you're making me feel. And if that's a hard pill for you to swallow, I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry because I now need
Mhm.
to speak up for myself, and
Yep.
you need to acknowledge the pain
Right.
that you cause. And I know that's a hard pill for people to swallow.
Mhm. So they'd rather
S-
not hear it sometimes. Yep.
Exactly. Yeah. So we don't have a relationship now. I don't have any ill will towards her. She's my mom. I'll always love her. I think that's the one misconception about foster care. People
Yeah.
think like, oh, you were abused by your parent
Mhm.
neglected you. You probably, hate them. And
Yeah.
no, like I have moments now where I sit and cry because I just have this yearning of like, I just want my mom,
Yeah.
that never goes away, no matter how old you are. I think I'll
Yeah.
probably be in my 70s and still have that feeling.
Yeah.
So, I've had to place boundaries to protect myself
Right.
emotionally and mentally. And that's
Absolutely.
where I'm at. But again, I fell back and fell into the space of like, damn, I'm angry with her all over again.
Yeah.
And then I had to take my step. Well, I know what I have my tools now. Now
Right.
I know that I can write a letter to her that I'm never
Mhm.
going to send.
There you
Or maybe
go.
I will send a letter to her and say, hey, this is how I'm hurting. And now I need to place these boundaries down.
Yep. Wow, great way to cope with it all because it really is a lot. And what captivated me even more about you right now was how you mentioned the pain never goes away.
Yeah.
So, out of all the people that I come across that they're like acquaintances, clients, friends, there's only one other person aside from you now that I know that they were in the foster care system.
Hmm.
And maybe other people have been, they just don't share it.
Right.
But even that one friend of mine, she's like, does that pain ever go away? Because now you seem like you're healed. And I'm like, I am. But I think there's that sadness when you're at a family party with whether it be like a friend or your boyfriend and you see their family intact. And you're like, shit, I don't have that mom to go and cry to. Like when I cry, shit, I cry in the shower. Or I
Yes.
go to my partner or a very trusted friend. But for the most part, I'll just be like holding it down myself.
Hmm.
So I did share with her, like, I don't think the pain ever goes away. It's just something you live with. And
Yeah.
like you said, once upon a time, we had that victim mentality, but it didn't serve us. It hurt us.
Right.
And we had to come up with a way to get out of it, to then understand as much as we could. Because even if we go in the past and try to seek answers, sometimes we don't get it. Same thing with my mother. I don't have a relationship with her now, but what led us to get taken away was just her being in and out of jail, drug use,
Hmm.
partying, leaving with guys,
Yep.
abandoning us with our grandmother. And I would ask myself too, like, why me? Why does this happen to me? Like,
Yeah.
why couldn't she just not have kids, but instead just like pop them out one by one and drop them off at my grandmother's? I couldn't
Yes.
understand it
Right.
until I tried to just check myself and be like, okay, maybe she really lived a hard life. And same as you being that first one in the family to break those generational curses. And there's still even pain after it because I have four other siblings and
Hmm.
sometimes they don't even break free from it. So
Yeah.
you could be like the only one trying to convince them and they think that you're like the crazy one.
Yeah.
Have you ever experienced anything like that?
Yeah, definitely. I gosh, my family relationships are so tricky, right? I think we all hold on or have held on
Yeah.
to so much of the pain we experience. And
Right.
my siblings are about like 7 or 8 years older than me. So there's a
Okay.
big age gap. So
Mm-hmm.
I was in the home alone with my mom by the time they were 18. They bounced. They couldn't wait. They were like,
Yeah.
I'm out
Oh,
of
so you're
here.
the
I'm done
baby
with this
then.
lady. Yeah. So
Okay.
I was there with my mom for that amount of time,
Yeah.
alone.
Right.
And my older brother and sister, they went through the system together. So they also
Mm-hmm.
experienced that, but they were living with my grandmother. And I'm the one child that actually experienced going to like foster care placements.
Yep.
I was with my grandmother at one point.
Mm-hmm.
So it's something, and I think even it's like in the Hispanic culture
Yeah.
where like let's pretend it didn't happen, or let's tell a joke about it,
Yes.
and let's like pretend it didn't happen,
Yeah.
or don't, let's not talk about it, but we know it's there, and it's just this
Mhm.
heavy elephant in the room.
Right.
So I think that that has really shaped our relationship with one another.
Mhm.
Like I, especially with my sister, I think about my sister. She's like the silliest person. We're so silly together. We
Yeah.
have so much fun. But when it comes to talking about anything serious, it's really rare. And it
Yeah.
has to be like a breakdown. Like she's really struggling mentally, and she knows she needs to reach out to someone. She'll
Yeah.
she'll call me,
Mhm.
and I'll give her encouraging words, or she'll do
Yeah.
the same for me. So it's kind of like a hush hush. We don't
Mhm.
really talk about it, but we've talked about
Yeah.
it.
It's like we all know, but it's gonna take the
Yes.
one that's here
Girl,
that's gonna say
it's
something and they don't
tricky.
want to hear it because the truth
Yeah.
hurts.
Yeah,
Or
definitely.
they just maybe don't even understand it themselves, or it's too much to bear. And I
Yeah.
think there's like a guilt on our moms as well, because I remember same thing like you. I was in my healing journey and I'm like, I only hate two people in my life. And the two people were my mom and at the time my ex, because we were together for 10 years, toxic relationship. And I'm like, how dare I let myself get into this shit? But I
Right.
feel like it stems from what we went through,
Oh,
not knowing better.
absolutely.
And I obviously forgave him. I'm like, I forgive you and I'll leave you type of thing. And with my mom, I was like, ooh, that's going to be a hard one.
Yeah.
But I know I had to do it for myself to just let it go, because it's something that you feel it like bien pesado on your heart, you know?
Yes.
And the moment I had talked to her and I'm like, hey, this is how I feel about you. Like, I just to kind of put it in a nutshell, I told her, I forgive you for everything you did to me. You had your reasons, and there's only so much I'm going to understand, because she didn't really want to be the one to share. So I just kind of had
Right.
to assume and learn based off of what my grandmother told me. So I'm like, shit, drug abuse, gangs, lack of stability in the home as well. So I'm like, I get it. And like you said, being a mom as well, we understand it even more how hard life is in general, but being a mother as well and trying to be the
Yes.
best parent you can be. But you could only do so good depending on how you are as a person, how much you work on yourself and heal yourself. And I did same thing to her, like, I don't want a relationship with you, but I love and appreciate you for bringing me to this world and giving me a unique name the way Valerie is spelled. But
Yeah.
um, it's hard to repair a relationship that's been broken for so long, and
Yeah.
especially when, for example, my mom, she's still like living in the streets, drug use. So it's hard to want to even help that person when they really don't want the help, or they don't want to
Right.
help themselves. And now you have kids, and I'm like, this is my piece, because damn well she ain't gonna go through the shit that I went
Yeah,
through. So you're like
absolutely.
taking risks, helping them, or even allowing them into your space, because you just never know sometimes the intention, but the forgiveness is a really big step and a load off of the shoulders.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'm sorry to hear that your mom is still
Mm-hmm.
struggling. I'm very fortunate in that sense that my mom has been, I want to say, sober for probably 15
That's
years or something
great.
like that.
That's
So
awesome.
she's doing really well for herself.
Yeah.
But again, those are pains and traumas that I think that she still holds on to, which
Yeah.
keeps us from having a relationship with one
Right.
another. And I think when it comes to motherhood,
Mm-hmm.
people don't really talk about how healing it is to parent your own children,
Yeah.
and also it can go against your healing as
Mm-hmm.
well, and
Yeah.
it's funny that it comes up with my daughter the most, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
she's a girl and you can relate
Yeah.
to your girl
Yeah.
child more. But I there's a couple of aha moments I had with like, holy shit, I did this for
Yeah.
them, which is one is that they've been in a stable school, like,
Yeah.
elementary, middle school, high school with the same friends, because she's about to be a senior next year.
Nice. Oh my
And so,
goodness.
I'm watching her and her friends, these little girls that I've watched grow up together, and it hit me like, oh my God, my kid has childhood friends.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what that's
Something,
like.
yeah, same. Something I
So,
didn't
yeah.
experience from moving around so much.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I moved around to so many schools. Like, I don't have childhood friends. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know any of those people from the
Yeah.
multiple schools that I went to.
Right.
And even for 4th of July, I had, her and her girlfriends over, and they wanted to go watch fireworks. So I was like, well, we're not going to go to a spot to go watch fireworks, but I had to
Yeah.
drive her brother to Ontario. So, the drive,
Mm-hmm.
they were seeing all the fireworks, and
Yeah.
the girls are in the back seat, like
Mm-hmm.
singing their music. And
Yeah.
it was such like I get to experience this,
Yeah.
like this is the life I wanted with my mom.
Yep.
And it's like reliving that and getting that, but from a different perspective.
Right.
So just kind of catching those moments, stopping to recognize those moments is
Yeah.
so healing in itself.
It is, because
Yeah.
then we become I've always seen it like I became the mom that I wish I had to my
Oh,
daughter. So I
yes.
tell her, "My girl, you don't know how good you have it." But I'm like,
Yeah.
I know I'm a really great mom to her, and I'm like, "Damn, I wish I had that." So I feel like we
Yeah.
do even more for them and go above and beyond because we know what was missing, and we're like, "Okay, we gotta make sure we fill that void and be there for them, love them, heal them, and support them throughout the whole way."
Yeah. Yeah,
And now
definitely.
for challenges, because I know there's a lot of challenges navigating the system. So, as your younger self, from what it is that you can remember, what are some challenges you would say that you've had throughout the foster care system that other foster youth can now relate to you? Or like a typical challenge that we know foster youth go through?
Um, I mean, I guess the big one would be building your identity and your
Right.
self-worth. That took me years. And even now in my 30s, I'm still evolving into who I am or who
Right.
I pictured I'd be because a lot of times we don't have adults in those spaces. It's like,
Yeah.
yes, there's people there to care for our basic needs, right?
Right.
Make sure they got a bed to sleep on, they got
Mm-hmm.
clothes on their back, they got
Food.
food, but all of the emotional stuff
Right.
was gone. There
Yeah.
was nothing there. And for my case, I was a runaway for many years of my time in care.
Was it like on and off, or would you run away for like an extensive period and then go back into placement? How was that for you?
Yeah, it was a couple on and offs, but there was
Okay.
definitely a longer stretch where, like, for years, I was able to stay out of the system
Mhm.
technically, you
Yeah.
know? So that time, I really didn't have any adults telling me how to see myself,
Right.
showing me like, "Oh my god, you're really creative. You're really
Mhm.
talented at this. You should do this like,
Yep.
for fun or for a hobby."
Right.
I had to learn all of those things on my own.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of times, especially people who are mentoring or advocating for youth in foster care, they kind of feel like, "Well, I'm here, I'm showing up for them. Why don't they
Mhm.
just get it? Just get it." And it's like, no, it's not that easy. It's going to
No.
take them time to see themselves because the people who were supposed to instill that in them
Yep.
are
Didn't.
not here.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, that is all the youth wants. Is for
Right.
those people. It doesn't matter if you have, good foster parents who show up for them and show them that love and that nurturing.
Yeah.
You still want it from the people who brought you in on this earth.
Right.
So I think the challenging part was really to find my identity, to build a sense of self-worth because there was no foundation of self-worth at all.
Right.
And that was, I think, the emotional and mental battles were probably the challenging part of being in the system.
And I think a lot of us can experience that, going back to the victim mindset, asking why me, and even trying to have hope for a better life because sometimes we
Yeah.
cannot even see out of that scope. So going to that self-worth, how do you feel like the foster care system shaped your identity in somehow, some way? Or if you feel like it taught you anything aside from what you already know, like experiencing it. If you feel like it did you good, it did you bad, it was neutral. We have our moments in our journey where we're like, everything happens for a reason. Sometimes I look back at my journey in the foster care, I'm like, damn, why did I have to go through that? But then
Mhm.
I realized going through it, it was a good and a bad thing because the emotional damage, mental damage, but there's so many opportunities that I received if by being in the foster care system that I wouldn't
Yeah.
have received just being at home because I didn't know about college. I didn't know about certain resources, just being around social workers and people that actually cared and wanted to help and seeing their way of thinking the world.
Yeah,
Hmm.
definitely. Um, so for me, being a runaway, it
Yeah.
was hard for me to hone in on those resources
Hmm.
because I wanted to get the hell out of the system. So I
Yeah.
was doing everything to get out of it. So I didn't realize the resources that came with it until
Right.
later, until I went to college.
Mm.
So then I was able to see like, oh crap, my college is going to be paid for, right? Which it sounds really nice when you think
Yeah.
about it, but it's like we had a price to pay for
Hmm.
getting our college tuition paid for. There
Yeah.
was a price to pay. We don't have parents. We went through
Right.
emotional turmoil and things like that.
Exactly.
Um, so it's just sad to think of that part of the story.
Right.
Um, and I just I think that it did me a service of being able to find my voice
Yep.
and to figure out what my purpose was. right?
Right.
But a lot of that, again, like I said, I had to build a foundation for myself,
Right.
which was really difficult. But you need to look for people
Mm-hmm.
who are standing out, the ones that are showing up.
Right.
And something that we teach in our training at CASA when volunteers come in is that youth who are going through the system,
Yeah.
they build up their walls really high,
Mm-hmm.
not because we want you to knock them down, right? Because everyone's like, I'm going to knock her walls down and
Yeah.
I'm going to get to her heart.
Mm-hmm.
No, we will continue stacking like, oh, this didn't make you leave. Let me make it a little harder for you
Yeah.
because we're testing to see how, if you're going to stay. Are you going to
Right.
climb over the wall? Because you're not going to break the wall down.
Mm-hmm.
Tell you that much. But
Right.
are you going to climb over it?
Wow, that's amazing. I'm very infatuated by all the things you're saying because it's, I haven't had a conversation about foster youth with someone in a very, very long time. And it's just really nice to see all the work that you're doing, which leads me to you being a CASA. I remember, I know they have like different like big brother, big sister programs, and they
Mhm.
have someone that works with you. And I think some of it's like volunteer. I never got that resources. But I know my siblings, they would have someone that they'd go with and they would always say, oh, it's my CASA. And they'd take them out to like Disney or do things like that. So, what led you to work for that organization? Aside from like your own personal experience, was it the desire to be like, I'm going to change the world, like one foster youth at a time and bring your healing and your experience to serve others?
Yeah. So, like I said, other than my experience with volunteering with them, the
Yeah.
whole purpose was of that was to get some experience under my belt
Yeah.
working one on one with the foster youth because I wanted to be a social worker at
Okay.
one point.
Yep.
But then, so I actually worked for Big Brothers Big Sisters.
Oh,
So
nice.
I
Okay.
started out there as a program facilitator,
Mm-hmm.
and then I seen an opening at CASA, and I thought, oh
Cool.
my gosh, this is the population that I want to work
Yeah.
with,
So you took the
right?
opportunity. That's
And
good.
I took that opportunity. And I when I first came on, I was an advocate supervisor. So I
Okay.
supervised about 40 advocates and
Mm-hmm.
their youth and stuff like that. So you go to court with the
Wow.
advocate, you have monthly check ins with them to
Mm-hmm.
see how their relationship is going, give them
Yeah.
advice and things like that. And I thought that it would be so important, or it is so important, to have people with lived experience
Absolutely.
training and coaching these advocates because a
Mm-hmm.
lot of the advocates they live in Orange County.
Yeah.
A lot of them are very well off. They don't know this struggle.
Right.
And so helping them to see it from my perspective of like, okay, you actually were a youth in foster
Yeah.
care. I think it held so much more weight for them and more,
Right.
and not more, I don't want to say more value because that makes it sound like the other supervisors don't have value, which
Mm-hmm.
they do, but you're able to give them a different lens,
Right. And
you
it's that
know?
relatability to where they can connect. And a
Right.
good example of like, hey, if she did it, so can I.
Exactly. Yeah, definitely. And now, now I'm the content creator for the organization, and
Yep.
I've had moments where, just recently I got to go to. We have like it's called a Fashion Island experience where,
I've seen that with the pinwheels, right?
so we have the Pinwheel
Okay.
one, and the Fashion Island experience is where youth get nominated to get like a $500 gift card for
Mm-hmm.
shopping. They go get like manis and petties with their
Ooh,
advocate.
that's
So it's like
nice.
a special spa day. They get like rewarded for whatever they're nominated for, right? Maybe
Okay.
they just graduated or got accepted into a college or what have you. So I got to go along for that experience. One, I had to photograph it, but then they
Mm-hmm.
asked me like, "Would you be willing to share your story?"
Yeah.
So it was a perfect opportunity to also be that representation of like, you guys are the authors of your story. You know that,
Right.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like my heart in this work is to be that representation
Right.
because I didn't see anybody with my story who was
Mm-hmm.
going to college, who owned a home, who had a great family dynamic with their
Right.
children. I didn't know that that existed
Right.
for people like me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's so, it's amazing to be able to share that with them that you
Right.
can get here. You can do this. It's representation is everything. We need to see our stories out there and being successful.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I love that. I'm curious, what led you to not want to do the social worker route anymore?
Yeah, that's such a great question. So originally, I had decided, you know what, I'm going to be a social worker. I want to be the social worker that I didn't have
Mhm.
because I very much felt like just another number or, a case number on a social worker's desk that they were just kind of just pushing along.
Yeah.
I never had a social worker that actually sat down with me and encouraged me, motivated me. It was kind of like, you know, doing their job,
Yeah.
and there wasn't any heart or passion in it. So I thought, this is great. I can connect with these kids, not really thinking about the heaviness of the job,
Right.
right? Having to read the documents
Yeah.
and all of those things. And when I was in college, when I realized that, it was a little too late because I was already like far into my degree where it's like I
Mhm.
can't go back now and change my major, right?
Yeah.
I majored in sociology, but I was able to minor in communications.
Okay,
And I
cool.
always wanted to do something creative. I've always had creative talents like drawing,
Mhm.
singing, writing, just all of those things, but I never really had anybody to help me shape them.
Yeah.
So I just thought, well, what do I know? I know foster care. So I'm
Mhm.
going to get my degree in that and that'll be my career. And a lot of people take that route. They
Yeah.
they go into what they grew up with,
Mhm.
and for me, I realized it too late and I decided, you know what, maybe this is not what I want to do. So I put um graduate school on hold,
Okay.
and I didn't go for my master's degree,
That's okay.
and I ended up, going into the nonprofit, found
Mhm.
myself here at CASA, and thank God I didn't go into social work because being an advocate supervisor, you're reading all of the court paperwork.
Yeah.
So it's almost similar to
That
social work.
social worker position.
Yeah,
Okay.
and reading, there was days where I was heavy, like I had to read what these kids were going through and I saw
Mhm.
myself in these stories,
Yeah.
and it would bring me back, it would pull me back into that all over again.
Mhm.
And I remember even one time being in court with an advocate, there was a young boy who was being called, his case was being called up and he had the same last name. So
Oh
I bring the
shoot.
child Gutierrez and I like my body just stiffened up and I was like, and
Because
it
it was like
just
if they were calling you.
instantly, yeah, it was instantly just pulled me back into what it was like sitting in court waiting for my name to be called.
Yeah.
So I kind of determined like, no, this is not for me. I can help and I can uplift this community in a
Mhm.
completely different way, but
Yeah.
I don't have to don on the cape and be the superhero.
Right.
And I think that's like such an important message that I really want youth in foster care right now
Yeah.
to understand, because I seen it when I was an advocate supervisor. Oh, what do you want to be when you grow up?
Mhm.
When I meet the kiddo, oh, I'm going to be a therapist or I'm going to be a social worker.
Something healing, which is
And
what they need.
it's all of it has to do with what they're experiencing
Right.
because that's their whole world.
Right.
Nobody is showing them like, hey, you're actually really good at baseball. You
Mhm.
can get a scholarship for that.
Yep.
Like maybe we can find you a sports team to be a part of.
Yeah.
So helping them to find their talents other than what they're going through, because they're
Mhm.
going to want to be the fixers.
Right.
And I realized I was doing it for all the wrong reasons. I didn't want to be a social worker just because I wanted to help heal all the children in the
Mhm.
system. I was doing it because I wanted to go back and save little Antoinette.
Yeah.
I wanted to be little Antoinette's social worker and said, "Come on, we're
Mhm.
going to get you out of here, girl."
Imma show you
Yeah,
Imma show you how it's done. Yeah.
yes. So, realizing that I can do that in a different way, and I think that my platform now with Deeply Rooted is all about that. This is my way of giving back to the community
Yeah.
and still being able to do this work without having to feel like I need to carry everybody's burden on me because I was a part of that system.
I hear you, and I love that you bring up the deeply rooted because, as you mentioned, you're a content creator for CASA.
Yes.
When I first followed you, you didn't have that many posts, so I was
Yeah.
able to learn more about your story, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, she also went through the foster care system," and that's how we further connected as well. And then, bam, you just pop up and revamp your whole thing. So you even became that content creator for your own personal life. And now
Yeah.
with the Deeply Rooted, which is fairly new. So tell me more about that. What are you doing with the Deeply Rooted? Is it motivational stuff? Is it you're going to start providing some sort of like consulting, coaching? How do you plan on going about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's always been a lifelong dream to do some sort of like coaching with
Okay.
that, for specifically for youth in foster care,
Gotcha.
and also older youth
Hmm.
or former
Like
people from
myself.
former people from care,
Yeah.
right? Because I don't think a lot of people know, but our services for programming and resources, they
Yeah.
have an age cap. So I believe a lot of them stop at like 24, 25.
Mhm.
But what people and organizations don't realize is that we are former foster people in foster care for the rest of our life.
Yeah.
We are still navigating systems for the rest of our life. We still need mentoring. We still need coaching.
Yep.
Like, how do I do my taxes, or what I want to start this business? Who can I connect with who can show me these things?
Right.
So I think a long-term goal is definitely to build some sort of coaching or mentorship for people who are older who can't tap into those resources that are available for the younger,
Got it.
formerly um, people in care.
Yeah.
But also, I think right now is really just focus on showing people that you can do the healing, you can
Right.
do the work, and just spreading that awareness through sharing my story
Yeah.
and how I am continuing the healing. And that's really just another message, is that you're never healed, because that's one misconception that I held on for a long time. And then I would fall into a deep depression because I would
Yeah.
sit there and tell myself, why isn't it working? They told me to go
Mhm.
to therapy.
Yeah.
They told me to go to college. They told me to journal, to meditate. Why is none of it working? I'm supposed to
Mhm.
be healed. I'm supposed to get to this destination of healed and happy and
Yeah.
live this happily forever life.
Yeah.
But that's not the truth.
And would
That
you say that for like that the healed would be more of like as a whole or as the part of like the foster care?
um I think it can go for both.
Mhm.
And when I say that, like, you never get to the destination,
Yeah.
right? It's a journey.
Right.
Doesn't mean like you're not ever going to feel healed, because I
Right.
definitely feel healed.
Mhm.
But again, you run into situations or relationships that you're in
Right.
that will peel that scar right off, and the wound is reopened again.
Yep.
And you need to figure out how to pick yourself back up again.
Okay.
Or you thought you were completely healed from the mother wound, but then,
Mhm.
Mother's Day happens and then you fall into a depression.
Right.
So I think a part of the way I view healing is not allowing your triggers to consume you.
Got it.
To
Okay.
to be able to, well, now I have the tools.
Mhm.
Like, I'm going to fall into my depression for a day or two, but now I know to get back up. I know I need to go outside.
Right.
I know I need to journal. I know I need to call my support system and say, "Hey, I really need to talk this out with you."
Yeah.
Process the emotions. So I think, no, you don't reach this destination of healed. You just learn how to manage it and how
Right.
to regulate the emotions better. And that's what should view as your healing,
Yeah.
which is the process that you create for yourself.
Yeah, that makes sense. I know because when you said that, I'm like, I know after I've gone through a lot of life circumstances, whether it was just like the environment I grew up or relationship, I do feel like that word healed, I achieved it with those categories because even leaving that 10-year toxic relationship, I'm like, what do I need to do to heal myself? Because clearly I wasn't making the best choices to continuously stay in a relationship where I was getting cheated on, abused mentally and
Mhm.
emotionally. And after leaving it is when I did the work where, like you said, I love list. And you even mentioned earlier you made a list of your non-negotiables. So once I made that list and I wrote down these are all the things that I don't like, these are the things that I need to change, what's in my control, what's out of my control, and learning to cope with that and manage it, then that's when I feel like I got to that level of healing. So when I heard you said that, I was like, that's really interesting because the only thing in my life that I feel that is not healed would be the foster care stuff. It's just
Mhm.
like really owning it. And I didn't realize that until I came across your stuff. And I'm like, you know what? I know I was a former foster youth. I've healed through a lot of things. I've forgiven a lot of things. But I think that's one thing where I was just kind of like, I went through that shit and I'm, strong and
Yeah.
resilient. And I'm able to, if I'm able to deal with all of that, then everything else in life is even easier to navigate. But you're right, those tools that we gain and those habits are things that are going to help us become better. And going back to the healing, now that I'm in a happy, healthy relationship, I told myself if I ever experience like something that's a red flag or it's like a no go, then that's where you kind of feel it a little bit all over again. But this time you got to make a different move if
Right.
necessary and not continue to stay in that cycle.
Right.
But I'm glad you brought
Boundaries.
clarification because I'm like, wait, how do you not ever get to a point of healed? But I agree with you where the point in life we're always learning, right?
Yeah.
There's always something new that we're going to learn. But when you had mentioned that healing, I was like, wait, we need some more clarification on that. So
Yeah.
thank you for that because that does make sense.
Definitely. And it's also recognizing and
Hmm.
honoring yourself, right? I
Right.
think that's something that I had to learn in my healing, because especially in relationships,
Yeah.
I always wanted to be chosen, right?
Hmm.
And I have this anxious attachment style.
Yeah.
So when I am in love with someone, I will cling on to that
Mhm.
feeling, cling on to them, and just wanting to fill a void of something I didn't get in my childhood.
Right.
And those things can be, they can open up those triggers for you. And even being in a healthy relationship
Yeah.
will open up triggers because you're expecting something completely different, right? You're used to the chaos, and
Mhm.
peace feels like so boring. And it feels like there should be something going on right now. And your body is constantly scanning for these threats,
Yeah,
you
that
know?
I didn't end up experiencing, and I think it was more because when I left that 10-year toxic relationship, that's when my life changed. I'm like, "Okay, something's wrong with me all around that I'm not making the best choices to stay here. I'm not having good healthy habits and now showing my daughter that." And that's exactly what I don't want. And I took about, I want to say, 3.5 years before I even jumped in a relationship. So I did the work first, telling myself, this is the life I want to build. This is the person that I want to be with. And the moment this person comes, as good of a person I know I am, I'm not that high value person at the time because I'm still dealing with toxic habits that I picked up from this relationship. There's lack of security, lack of confidence. But when I did take the time to do the inner work for those 3.5 years, and I met my partner, I just told myself, make sure to enjoy it, the peace and the happiness, and know that it's okay to want to experience this love. And as much as we normalize toxic relationships, because I know a lot of people do, there's still that happy, healthy love out there. And I
Yeah.
think a lot of it is just us working on ourselves to then attract that person and identify if there's a red flag right away to be like, let me talk this through with them. And if this is something that is a red flag and they're potentially going to treat me like crap or something, then you kind of back out. But again, it's those tools, having
Yes.
that mindset, being able to identify if it's something that you're willing to deal with. And thankfully now so when you say that peace, I'm like, that is something that I've experienced, the dealing with the peace and happiness. And I think sometimes what would trigger me in the beginning of our relationship, we're almost going to be together 4 years now,
Wow.
I would get a little triggered when he'd mention something about how I would dress, because that's something I experienced in the past
Mhm.
relationship. But he's like, "Oh, I'm just coming from a loving and respectful place.
Yeah.
It's not because that's not a good outfit, but like it's maybe a little too revealing." And I'm like, "Oh, I'm gonna
Yeah.
dress however I want," not thinking, okay, be mindful of what it
Your
is that
partner.
your partner is
Yeah.
asking. So a trigger back in the day would have been telling my partner off, like in a
Yeah.
really bad way,
Oh,
and
absolutely.
getting very defensive, versus now I'm like, I can't do that shit. Like, I've already healed myself. It was like you said, a band-aid was lifted. How are
Yes.
you gonna act now? And I'm like, he doesn't deserve to be disrespected. And we always operate on just love and
Yes.
respect, never
Oof, girl.
disrespect. Cause when you cross that line, you just never go back. And that's what I dealt with for 10 years, like, oh, constantly calling each other like really bad names, doing
Yeah.
things to harm one another. And when I got triggered that very first time, I was like, oof. And I'm like, you triggered me right now. It's not your fault. Like, it's what you said, but it's the way
Mhm.
I'm receiving it. So it's
Yes.
been a long time since I heard this, because I was single for a long time and working on
Right.
myself. And I was just like, okay, he's not saying it in a bad way. Now I need to choose how I'm going to react and just do it in a much more positive way.
Definitely.
Hmm.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I could totally relate to that, especially with
Tell me,
like
tell
the
me.
dressing.
Yeah.
I am in a currently new relationship,
Ooh,
but
congratulations.
thank you.
Yeah.
And it's I definitely one of the first healthiest relationships that I've been in,
Yep.
and the way you dress,
Yeah.
that was one of them that came up. But he's also helped me see that my view of men was built on a very shaky foundation,
Yeah.
right? I came from an abusive relationship,
Hmm.
both physically, mentally, things like that. And
Yeah.
I've always been in control of my life. And I think that's one thing that people don't talk about with trauma,
Hmm.
is that wherever we can control, we will control, because we were
Yeah.
so much out of control for a really long time
Right.
that we will control whatever we can.
Right.
And dressing as provocatively or
Yes,
whatever,
it just made you feel so empowered. But
Yes, yes, but also viewing a man's role in your life of like he's your protector.
yeah.
Like you're representing each other.
Right.
You don't want your man you out in the streets,
Yeah.
acting up because he's a representation of you.
Right.
People are gonna be like, Valerie, what? Why are you
Yeah.
dating him? He's
Mhm.
not even to your
Yeah.
standard. So I had to change my view of that as well and realize like, okay, I can still be empowered and not
Right.
dress a certain way and
Yeah.
still, be feminine and all of those
Mhm.
things. But my partner also wants to feel respected in a way like this is my partner. I'm very
Yeah.
proud to have this partner.
Right.
And that doesn't mean like flashing everything to everyone,
Yeah,
you
and
know?
that
And
exactly was me. So I hear you. Yep.
yes, finding your power in other ways, it doesn't, and I mean, that's another whole long story to go
Yeah.
into, but feminism has definitely kind of blurred those lines of
Right.
a female and male's role in at least in a hetero
Ooh, we
relationship.
definitely have to do another podcast
Girl,
episode
that's a
of
whole
yes,
episode.
seriously. Because I'm like, that was like the only thing in our relationship, and same thing like you. I never experienced a happy, healthy relationship. I'm like, what is that? So
Yeah.
now with him, I'm like, we only had like one argument, which is that one time. And it wasn't
Yeah.
even an argument, it was more like a disagreement, but I knew it was the way I perceived it. But that's what it was, the dressing provocative. And I'm like, I was always like that,
Yes.
like just wearing the least amount of clothes sometimes
Yeah.
or the tightest, shortest thing. And he's like, you're beautiful as you are. Like, you don't need to be showing all of that. And then
Right.
he's very elegant. He comes from the hood too, but you can see more of the elegance. And me, I'm like, I come from the hood. I could be classy and professional too.
Yeah.
But when I dress up, I'm like, that's like my time to just like
to shine. Yeah.
I'm like, we shine either way, like how we help people and what we do. But he's like, you gotta show up dressed as the person that you want to become. And you think
Yes.
this was like almost 4 years ago. He's like, you think the coach Val that you want to be is going to be coaching her clients in her little crop top, like wrapped up
Yeah.
like this. And I'm like, you know what? You're right. And that's when I had to do another transformation with the way I dress. And I just was like, you can still be sexy and cover up. And a lot of it was learning. Some women say, oh, that's how I am. And you're not going to fucking change me.
Oh,
And that's toxic, right?
Such a not a
Yeah,
great mindset you want to be stuck in,
exactly.
ladies.
Yes, you do not want to be stuck in that mindset. So even he taught me those things like, hey, I'm not telling you what to wear, because in the past it would be that like, you shouldn't wear that, you should wear this, where he was like, you look beautiful. I'm not telling you what to wear, but it would make me more comfortable if maybe it wasn't like too revealing. I'm like, all right, bet I got you. And then slowly making those changes. So
Yeah.
I'm really happy for you to be in a happy, healthy, loving relationship.
Thank
And
you.
I'm sure it's going to be an awesome experience, especially it being your first and hopefully your last in the best way, where you guys are
Yes.
together forever,
Yes.
because it's something that I think even though we've given it to ourselves, we seeked in life because of not just because of how we grew up and stuff, but when you have that person where you're like, I know they have my fucking back. They're my peace. They're my happiness, love, best friend, and I can count on them for whatever, no judgment. It feels really good.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, the way that my guy explained it to me is like,
Tell me.
the way you're dressing is attracting the people that you don't want. Right? So you're
Mhm.
being provocative, and a lot of women are like, I can't find a good man, and all these men just want one thing. But it's like, but you're representing yourself in this way. So
Yes.
what are you going to attract? You're going to attract that type of person.
Yep.
And then also I had to learn that I didn't have respect for men. And that's something that I didn't even realize until I was with him.
Mm-hmm.
Is that my view of respect for men was lacking, because one, I've only been in relationships with horrible men who weren't to be respected.
Mm-hmm.
I had this message growing up by all of this, because I have tons of single mothers, right, in my family, my aunts, my mom, my grandmother, all of them were saying men ain't shit, So I was walking around with this idea that men ain't shit.
And a lot of women are like that.
Yes.
Mhm.
And that's what you attract.
Yep.
You attract that same type of man. And he had
You
to
attract that shit.
Yeah, you attract ancient men.
Yeah.
So my partner had to sit down, and he was like, do you think that you respect men? Like really sat with me and had this conversation. And I was like, and I got defensive for everything. So a lot of the beginnings of our getting to know each other was a lot of bumping heads. And thank God that he's been very patient with me, and I've been patient with him.
Nice.
And, we've definitely, it's a learning process along the way. Yeah.
I love that. And you see, when you say bumping heads, it's like, we don't mean nothing toxic. It's where you're being challenged.
Yes.
Mentally, emotionally,
in a healthy way.
Yeah, in a healthy
growth.
way. Mm-hmm. And like you said, you get defensive, but then that's where you get your toolbox. And you're like, let me get all my shit that I've learned throughout these years and move forward in a positive and happy, healthy way. And that doesn't make us toxic or anything for us to get defensive. It's just like a trigger. And we find the best way to work through it, because ultimately you just want to love on this person, be happy. So now he's coming from a loving and respectful place because he loves you and he wants to build a life with you, you know. But
Definitely.
girl, we are definitely gonna have
I know.
another episode about
I'll be
this.
back.
Yeah,
I'll be
she'll
back.
be back for sure. I know we're almost running out of time here. So what I'm gonna do is the elevate in 60. So I'm gonna ask you
Okay.
a question and do your best to answer it in less than 60
Okay.
seconds. And then we'll go ahead and close out from there and you'll give your final message and not. So are you ready, girl?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm ready.
So question number 1, what's your favorite color and why?
Ooh, my favorite color is green. And it can be all kinds of greens, but I think like a hunter green, a deep green. There's just
I'm like,
something
is that
about
green on here somewhere?
There is something powerful about green for me. It just screams power.
Ooh, I love that. What message would you give to a younger version of yourself?
Ooh, the love that you're seeking is already in you.
Ooh, yes,
It's
that's a
already
really
in
good
you.
one. And finally, how do you stay rooted in service while protecting your peace?
Ooh, that's a good question. Knowing when to rest.
Mm-hmm.
Knowing when to rest, because as much as you want to be in service, if
Yeah.
you are pouring into people with an empty cup, you're going to burn out, you're going to crash out, and you're going to
Yes.
feel like your purpose is lost and that
Mm-hmm.
there is no meaning behind it. There's nothing healthy coming from it.
Right.
So if you are someone who lives a life of service, who does volunteer work, who works with this population of
Right.
kids in foster care,
Mm-hmm.
you have to take care of yourself
Absolutely.
because you're useless to everyone, right?
Yeah, if you
Just
don't
like they
take care of
say,
yourself,
yeah,
yeah.
on the airplane, put your mask on first because you can't help anyone
Yeah.
else if you don't have your mask on first and pouring into you. So
That's
pour into
true.
yourself.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. Now, as we're coming to the end, do you feel like there's any last minute messages that you want to give to the viewers before we sign off?
Yeah, I guess like I said, healing is not a destination, it's a constant journey, it's a daily practice, and I want you to change your mindset of it being self-devoted. I think that's what really helped me in my healing process is making it a devotion to myself and knowing that I am worthy to give that to me. If you can be devoted to your family members, to your partner, I view that now as myself. If I'm giving this to my partner, why wouldn't I give it to myself? So make it a self devotion and keep getting back up. Keep getting back up and dusting yourself off because you could do it.
Absolutely. You want to give a shout out to your man?
Shout out to my man Darnell. I know he's watching.
I
he's gonna freak out. He's like you didn't.
Hey, it's a good thing you're coming from a place of love,
Yeah.
representing your man. So I'm like, I absolutely love it. I love you too, babe. I love you too so very much. Now, thank you everyone for tuning in. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you
You
for
are
having me.
You're very welcome. You're such a beautiful soul. I absolutely love your message.
Likewise.
And I look forward to having you back for sure. She's definitely going to be back. And I encourage you all to check the description box down below because you're going to find her email, social media, and any other information about the lovely Antoinette. Did I say it right?
You did.
Okay,
You
perfect.
did.
I've been so scared. I'm like, I'm going to botch that stuff. Okay. And if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, drop them down in the comment section. Let us know what else you want to learn from us when we come on next time. We're definitely going to talk women empowerment, more of what we were talking about, the feminism stuff. And if you're interested in any one-on-one coaching with me, also look at the information down below. Thanks for tuning in. And a final little motivation is your story is your strength, as you can see. It's time to transform, elevate, and thrive and do it unapologetically. Because at the end of the day, you want to be able to grow for yourself to live a better, healthier, and happier life. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next episode.